I am Elena Marrow, and I was 39 years old when my family decided, without a conversation, without a warning, that I no longer belonged to them. No argument led up to it. No dramatic fight that could later be dissected and blamed. Just a message, quietly delivered to my phone, that split my life into before and after. Before I go any further, please like, comment, and subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Stories like this matter because someone listening right now may be standing where I once stood, confused, hurt, and wondering how love can turn into resentment so easily. That afternoon had been ordinary in the way peaceful days often are right before everything breaks. Sunlight filtered through the wide windows of my townhouse in Riverton Bay, warming the hardwood floors as I folded laundry fresh from the dryer. The scent of clean cotton and lemon detergent filled the air. I remember thinking, almost with relief, that my life finally felt balanced. Not perfect, but steady. Predictable. Safe. I had earned that steadiness. My phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. I glanced down, expecting a reminder or a message from one of my staff. Instead, I saw my mother's name. My chest tightened instantly. She didn't text often. She preferred calls, usually brief, usually transactional, usually about someone else's problem. Seeing her name on my screen without a call attached felt wrong. I opened the message. Don't come to the family reunion this year. We've decided it's best. That was it. No greeting. No explanation. No we'll talk later. I reread the message again and again, convinced I was missing something. A follow-up text. A clarification. Anything that would soften the blow. There was nothing. My fingers went numb. A towel slipped from my hands and fell at my feet, but I didn't notice right away. I just stood there, staring at my phone, feeling something cold and heavy spread through my chest. I called her immediately. It rang once. Twice. 3 times. She answered on the 4th ring, sounding annoyed, as if I were interrupting something important. Yes, she said. Mom, I said carefully, already fighting tears. What is this message? Why are you telling me not to come? A pause followed. Not confusion. Not surprise. The kind of pause that means the answer has already been rehearsed. You got it, didn't you? She replied. There's nothing else to explain. There is everything to explain, I said. Why can't I come? Well, she sighed. Your brother Marcus thinks it's better if you sit this one out. My stomach dropped. Marcus? Since when does Marcus decide whether I'm part of the family? You've been difficult lately, Elena. The word hit harder than she probably intended. Difficult how? I asked. I haven't even seen anyone in months. You talk about your company all the time, she said. You make people feel uncomfortable. Not everyone wants to hear about how successful you've become. My company, Marrow and Vale Consulting. The firm I started 4 years earlier from my dining table after my divorce, using my savings and sheer stubbornness. The firm that now employed 14 people. The firm that paid salaries, health insurance, and kept other families afloat. The firm I had built brick by brick while everyone else slept. I don't brag, I said quietly. I'm proud, yes. But I don't rub it in anyone's face. That's not how it feels to the rest of us, she replied. Marcus's restaurant is barely surviving. Talia is struggling with her kids. You don't think about how your success affects other people. There it was. Jealousy dressed up as morality. So I'm being punished for working hard? I asked, my voice breaking despite my effort to stay calm. It's just 1 year, she said flatly. Let things cool down. Then she hung up. I stood in my kitchen long after the call ended, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to silence. The house felt different. Too quiet, too large, as if something had shifted and would never quite settle again. Family had always been everything to us. Or at least, that was the story we told ourselves. I was the oldest. The reliable one. The one who learned early that love came with responsibility. I babysat without complaint, helped with homework, ran errands, and stepped in whenever something went wrong. I was praised for being mature, for being dependable, for never causing trouble. What no one ever said out loud was that I was being trained to give without limits. When my father's truck broke down, I paid for repairs. When my mother needed help with medical bills, I wired the money the same day. When Talia was evicted, I covered her rent without asking questions. When Marcus wanted to open his restaurant, I loaned him startup funds, and later hired him as a consultant so he'd have steady income. I never kept score. Apparently they had. 3 weeks passed. No one reached out. No calls. No messages. Not even passive-aggressive posts online. It was as if I had been quietly erased from the family narrative. Then one morning, my work phone rang at 6:30 a.m. It was Rachel Moore, my finance director. "Elena," she said, her voice unsteady, "you need to come in. Right now." My heart started racing. "What's wrong?" "There's something wrong with the accounts." I was dressed and out the door in minutes. Traffic blurred as dread settled into my chest. When I arrived, Rachel was waiting near the entrance, holding a thick folder. Her usual calm professionalism was gone. "There are discrepancies," she said. "Large ones." "How large?" I asked. She swallowed. "So far, $285,000. The room tilted. I grabbed the back of a chair to steady myself. "That's impossible," I said. "That would destroy us." "I know," she replied softly. "We spent the entire day reviewing transactions. Payment after payment. Fake vendors. Fabricated invoices. Funds quietly routed into accounts I didn't recognize. The deeper we dug, the worse it became." "This wasn't random," Rachel said finally. "Whoever did this knew our systems." I already knew. Only 4 people besides Rachel and me had that level of access. My brother Marcus, hired as a brand strategist. My sister Talia, lead designer. My cousin Derek, head of IT security. And Jonah, a relative I brought into operations because no one else would hire him. Family. I called Marcus first. He answered cheerfully. "Hey sis, we need to talk about the company accounts," I said. "Almost $300,000 is missing." Silence. Then he laughed. "You serious right now?" "I'm asking for an explanation." His tone shifted instantly. "This is why nobody can stand you. You always think you're smarter than everyone else." "Did you take the money?" I asked, my hands shaking. Another laugh. Colder this time. "Maybe we took what should have been shared. Mom and Dad are drowning. You live comfortably while the rest of us struggle." "So you stole from me," I said quietly. He hung up. That night, I hired a forensic accountant. By Monday morning, the truth was undeniable. "This was coordinated," the accountant said. "They worked together." He pointed to charts and timelines. Marcus created shell vendors. Talia generated invoices. Derek wiped digital trails. Jonah approved payments. My stomach turned. "And there's more," he added. "They're trying to sell your company." I stared at him. "What?" "They forged ownership documents. Claim partial ownership. They're negotiating under a shell company called Union Crest Holdings." Union. The irony burned. In that moment, denial ended. My family hadn't just resented my success. They had decided it belonged to them. Once denial finally collapsed, it didn't shatter all at once. It peeled away slowly, like old paint coming off a wall, until the truth underneath was impossible to ignore. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. I didn't even cry right away. I just sat there, staring at the spreadsheets spread across my desk, realizing that the people who hurt me hadn't done it impulsively. They had planned it. That was the part that hollowed me out. Not the money. Not even the betrayal itself. But the patience. The coordination. The way they had studied my routines, learned my systems, and used my trust like a master key. The forensic accountant, Elliot Crane, a quiet man with sharp eyes and an almost unsettling calm, worked through the weekend. He barely spoke unless he had something definitive to say. By Sunday evening, he laid everything out in a way that made my stomach twist. "They didn't panic," he said, tapping a chart with his pen. "That tells me they never thought you'd look. Or if you did, they assumed you wouldn't act." I understood immediately what he meant. They believed I loved them too much to protect myself. On Monday morning, I drove to my parents' house unannounced. I didn't call ahead. I didn't text. I needed to see their faces when they realized I knew. My father answered the door. Surprise flickered across his face, quickly replaced by something harder. Annoyance. Maybe guilt. Maybe defiance. "Elena," he said. "What are you doing here?" "We need to talk," I replied, already stepping inside. My mother sat on the couch, watching a daytime talk show. She didn't turn her head when I entered, didn't mute the television, didn't acknowledge me at all. "Did you know?" I asked, standing between them. "About Marcus. About Talia. About the money." My father closed the door slowly, as if buying time. "Stealing is a strong word," he said. I felt something snap inside my chest. $285,000 is missing, I said. "They forged invoices. They created shell vendors. They tried to sell my company. What word would you prefer?" My mother finally turned to face me. Her eyes were flat. Not shocked. Not surprised. We call it family taking care of family, she said. You've done well, Elena. Better than the rest of us. That doesn't give you the right. Your father's retirement barely covers our bills, she interrupted. Marcus is drowning. Talia has children. You live comfortably while everyone else struggles. Necessary. That was the word she didn't say but meant. You think robbing me was necessary? I asked, my voice shaking. We raised you, my father said sharply. Paid for school. Gave you the foundation to build that business. You didn't do it alone. I stared at him, stunned. I thought about every time I had shown up. Every emergency transfer. Every quiet sacrifice. Every don't worry about paying me back. None of it mattered now. I want the money returned, I said. And I want them out of my company. Immediately. My father scoffed. Or what? Marcus walked in from the kitchen, arms crossed, a smile tugging at his mouth like he was enjoying a private joke. She won't do anything, he said. She wouldn't dare. That was the moment I understood something with painful clarity. They weren't afraid of me. I left without another word. The next call I made wasn't to family. It was to my attorney. 2 days later, I sat across from Agent Simone Hale, a federal investigator assigned to financial crimes. She reviewed Elliot's findings carefully, flipping through documents with methodical focus. This isn't a misunderstanding, she said finally. This is coordinated fraud. Multiple parties. Forged documents. Wire transfers across state lines. And the attempted sale escalates it. So this is federal, I said. Yes, she replied. Very. I swallowed. They're my family. She met my eyes. Family doesn't exempt anyone from the law. There was a long silence. We can build a strong case, she continued. But we need intent. We need coordination on record. I already knew what she was going to say. You want me to record them, I said. I want you to protect yourself, she replied evenly. But I won't lie, once this starts, it can't be undone. I went home that night and cried until my chest hurt. I cried for the family I thought I had, for the children who would be affected, for the version of myself who believed love meant unlimited access. By morning, my decision was made. They fitted me with a wire the following afternoon. It was small, hidden beneath my clothing, but it felt unbearably heavy, like carrying proof of my family's destruction against my skin. Agent Hale explained the plan carefully. You'll ask for a meeting, she said. Act like you're willing to negotiate. Let them talk. Ask questions. We need them explaining the scheme in their own words. I sent Marcus a text. You win. Let's talk. All of us. His response came seconds later. Smart choice. Thursday evening arrived faster than I was ready for. When I pulled into my parents' driveway, my stomach twisted. The driveway was full. Marcus's new luxury sedan. Talia's SUV. Derek's truck. Jonah's car. All of it paid for, at least in part, with my money. Inside, they were already gathered, sitting in a loose circle like a tribunal. My parents on the couch. My siblings and cousins in chairs around the living room. The same space where we had celebrated birthdays and holidays now felt hostile. Marcus gestured to an empty chair. Glad you came to your senses. I sat, my pulse roaring in my ears. I want to understand everything, I said calmly. How much did you take? Talia glanced at Marcus before answering. Around 300,000. Maybe more. And the sale? I asked. Marcus leaned forward, excitement lighting his face. That's the best part. Buyers offering $4 million. They think we're equal partners. Equal partners, I repeated. How many? 6, he said casually. I looked around the room. 6. My father lifted his hand slightly. Someone had to negotiate with the lawyers. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. You all planned this, I said. Together. Don't be dramatic, Talia said. You'll still walk away with money. Money I already earned, I snapped. Nobody wants to lose their family and their business, Marcus said smugly. We figured you'd cave. That was enough. Everyone stay where you are, a voice commanded from behind me. The front door burst open. FBI! Agents flooded the room. Hands went up. Someone screamed. Chairs scraped against the floor. Marcus's face drained of color as he looked at me. What did you do? He shouted. Agent Hale stepped forward, badge visible. Marcus Marrow, Talia Marrow, Derek Collins, Jonah Price, and Robert Marrow. You are under arrest for wire fraud, conspiracy, forgery, and racketeering. My mother screamed my name as if I had stabbed her. My father stared at me with pure hatred. You chose money over blood. You chose theft over family, I said quietly. As they were let out in handcuffs, Marcus shouted, "You're dead to us." I whispered back, "I already was." The house emptied quickly, leaving me standing alone amid overturned chairs and shattered illusions. Agent Hale rested a hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing, but it didn't feel right." By morning, the fallout had begun. Messages flooded in. Calls. Accusations. How could you do this to your own family? You destroyed them. There were other ways. The local business association asked me to step aside. It creates uncomfortable optics, they said. My church suggested I take a break from leadership. Clients delayed contracts. Friends stopped calling. Only Rachel stayed. "They're wrong," she said quietly one evening as we watched employees pack their desks, fear written on their faces. "You protected what you built." But at night, alone in my house, surrounded by silence, I wondered if protecting myself had cost me everything else. And the trial hadn't even started yet. The trial date arrived faster than I expected and slower than I wanted. For months passed between the arrests and the first day in court, and in those months, my life unraveled in quiet, humiliating ways that never made the headlines. At first, people whispered. Then they stopped whispering. Clients who had once praised my integrity suddenly became busy. Projects were paused. Payments were delayed. One long-term partner emailed me to say my situation made their board uneasy. Another asked outright if associating with me might damage their reputation. I stopped checking my phone after dark. Inside the company, fear spread like smoke. Employees tried to stay professional, but I could see it in their eyes. Worry about their jobs, about stability, about whether this place they trusted would survive the storm attached to my name. I held meetings, reassured them, promised transparency. But reassurance only goes so far when the founder herself looks tired and haunted. The morning the trial began, I walked into the courthouse alone. My family sat together on the opposite side, dressed carefully, soft colors, modest jewelry, expressions practiced to signal humility and pain. They looked united. They looked wronged. They looked like exactly the kind of people juries feel sympathy for. I sat beside my attorney and felt every pair of eyes in the room slide toward me. I didn't look back at them. I kept my hands folded in my lap and focused on breathing. The prosecution was methodical, calm, unemotional. They presented bank records, email threads, vendor invoices that didn't exist, charts that traced the flow of money from my company into shell accounts and then into personal purchases, cars, trips, tuition payments, rent. When Elliot Crane, the forensic accountant, testified, the room was silent. He explained the scheme in plain language, breaking it down so even someone with no financial background could understand. This was not a single lapse in judgment, he said. It was a sustained, coordinated operation over an extended period of time. Then came the recordings. Hearing their voices in that courtroom, casual, confident, joking about how far they could go before I noticed, felt like being skinned alive. I stared at the wall behind the jury box and forced myself not to react as my brother laughed about finally getting what we deserve, and my sister discussed forged documents as if they were grocery lists. The defense fought hard. They painted me as cold, ambitious, ungrateful, a woman who had forgotten her roots and punished her family for daring to believe they were entitled to a share of her success. They brought character witnesses, distant relatives, former church acquaintances, people who knew me only enough to project their assumptions onto me. Then they called my ex-husband. He lied smoothly, claimed he had sacrificed for my career, claimed I owed the family money, claimed I had always been selfish, even in our marriage. He spoke with confidence, with the ease of someone who knew how to sound convincing without saying anything verifiable. When my children were mentioned, my chest tightened. The defense suggested, carefully, strategically, that my actions had harmed innocent people, that I had chosen money over blood, that I had destroyed a family instead of seeking mediation. When it was my turn to testify, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I talked about boundaries, about consent, about the difference between generosity and entitlement. I helped my family willingly, I said. What I did not do was give them ownership of my company. They never asked. They never negotiated. They took. The jury deliberated for 2 days. On the third morning, we were called back into the courtroom. The foreperson stood, hands trembling slightly. Guilty. Every count. My brother stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. My sister sobbed quietly. My cousin looked stunned. My father turned and looked at me with naked hatred. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. 3 years. 2 years. 18 months. 1 year and 6 months. As they were led away, my mother screamed across the courtroom. "I hope you're happy. You've destroyed us." I didn't answer. Outside, she confronted me one last time. "Was it worth it?" she demanded. "Your father is sick. Your brother has children. You got your justice. Now look at the damage." I wanted to tell her I had given them every chance. That they chose this path. That I didn't report them until they tried to take everything. Instead, I said quietly, "I'm sorry it came to this." She walked away without looking back. That was the last time I saw her. The business didn't survive. 6 months after the verdicts, Marrow and Vale Consulting closed its doors. Clients disappeared. Employees left. I sold what I could, paid off debts, and watched a dream I had built from nothing dissolve under the weight of a scandal I never asked for. The company that cost me my family ended up costing me everything else too. My children stopped speaking to me. My daughter sent one final message. "I hope your principles keep you warm at night. You'll never meet your grandchildren." I moved to another city. Changed my professional name. Started again with a small consulting practice focused on fraud prevention. I teach other business owners what I learned the hard way: how to protect themselves, how to set boundaries, how not to confuse love with access. Some people call me cold. Maybe I am. At night, I still look at old photos. Birthday cakes. Family vacations. My father teaching me to drive. My brother and I laughing as kids. I wonder sometimes if I should have let them take it all. If keeping my family would have been worth losing everything else. But then I remember their voices on those recordings. The certainty. The entitlement. The assumption that my success belonged to them simply because we shared blood. Justice doesn't feel like victory. Sometimes it feels like survival. And before you go, please like, comment, and subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. If this story touched you, share it, because somewhere, someone is being betrayed quietly and wondering if standing up for themselves will cost too much. Sometimes it does. But sometimes losing everything is the only way to keep who you are.